In this video, we're going to take just a few minutes to look at how you might create a letterhead in Microsoft Word. So in the document that we've created, this is simply a blank Microsoft Word document, and I've gone ahead and entered some information. So this is typical information that you will find in the letterhead. So you of course would need the company name. You're going to need their address. Sometimes you'll see their web address and also a phone number. You could also see links to social media or other items like that. So, moving on with getting our letterhead a little bit more attractive, because right now it's just a small block, not very fancy, not very interesting. So the first thing I'm going to do is change my top margin. I want this letterhead to be a little bit closer to the top edge of my paper. So remember, margins are found under Page Layout, Margins, and I can come down to Custom Margins because I don't really want a 0.5 margin for top, left, bottom, and right. I just want to adjust the top margin, so I'm going to make that 0.5. That'll move it a little closer to the top for me. Next, I'm going to increase the size of my company name, because that's a really important piece of my letterhead, so I want that to really stand out. That looks good, and I probably want to choose a font that's a bit more interesting than the default Calibri. So you have tons of options. Remember that you do want it to be readable. So if you choose some of these really fancy fonts that are in here, make sure that it works. So I shouldn't have to strain my eyes to try and figure out what my company name is. It's an important piece of information, and it should stand out and be readable. That looks pretty good for now. Alright, so now I have a block of information here. It does not have to stay in block format. It may be that I want to space it out underneath of my company name. I might decide that between my items, I want to insert a symbol. Just to help break things up a bit, we always have more symbols. You can change the font right here. I know some of my students previously have enjoyed going to Wingdings. And depending on my company name, you might find a symbol in here that would be appropriate. So for right now, I'm going to just use this symbol right here. I can double click, or I could have clicked Insert. Now I know I have several spots that I need to fill, so I'm going to insert this a few times, or I could have just copied and pasted. So I'm going to cut that symbol and move it over here. So now we're creating a little bit more interest in our letterhead. Now there's still lots of things that we could do. We could add a graphic over here, so something that is relates to my particular company. I might use my drawing tools. Remember, on the insert ribbon, I can draw shapes. So this line tool could be very useful, maybe to help separate my company name from the contact information. Now, there is a little trick here. While you're drawing the line, sometimes it can be difficult to get it perfectly straight right here if you hold the Shift key down while you are drawing your line. So if we hold the Shift key down while we are drawing the line, when we let go of the mouse button, the line will stay straight for us. Now once that line is drawn, we have a ton more options. We can change the outline, color, we can change the weight. The weight is going to deal with the thickness of our line. And you have other options that you can explore as you are working on your own letterheads. So this would be a fairly decent example of a simple letterhead. Make sure that you proof it for spelling errors. Notice that name has an extra space right there. That would be terrible to send out a professional document that had that kind of error. Remember that you can always add graphics to enhance the appearance. You can also add shapes to kind of add contrast. So for example, if I go back to shapes and add a rectangle, I could actually draw a rectangle that helps separate the top section of our document. In order to get this behind my text, all I need to do is right-click, choose Send to Back, And that should put it behind my text. Let's try that one more time. Send to back, send to back. And looks like I need to do one more step. Last step would be wrap text. Let's put it behind our text, behind text. There we go. And of course I can always change my fill color. Typically you would want to use the colors that go along with your company. Most companies have some sort of color scheme that is associated with them. For example, if you think about McDonald's, what colors immediately come to mind? Probably red and yellow because of their sign, the golden arches. So for your particular assignment, you might want to go ahead and think about the type of company that you are creating a letterhead for, and go ahead and come up with a color scheme that you might associate with your particular business. Now you may not want your contact information in a line underneath company name. That would be perfectly acceptable. What we might do is insert a text box. Text boxes are extremely useful. And we are going to draw the text box. Very useful tool. You can draw it right here to the right of company name, and you could just put your contact information there. So once you have that text box, there's still things that you can do to format this to make it a little bit more appealing. You have the Format tab still available. You can change the shapes fill, so maybe you want to add a little bit more contrast, or you could change the outline of your text box, maybe to a different color, or it might be that you don't want an outline at all on your text box, so maybe you just want it to be the color that you chose for the background. You have shape options that you could choose here as well. Things to really enhance your letterhead. So the sky's the limit. Make sure that you have the important information, company name, and your contact info. Keep in mind that the company will use this letterhead for all of their professional correspondence, and it should be a pretty good reflection on the company.